I'm here with highly respected mental health speaker Steve Carr. Steve has been through an extraordinary rollercoaster in his own life, and it's meant that he's in a completely unique position to be able to both relate and to inspire others. Hi, Steve. Thanks for joining me today. Tell me a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, certainly. Well, my journey into mental health and suicide prevention started 6 years ago. But it actually started a lot longer than that ago. But I came into the world of mental health, first aid and suicide prevention 6 years ago. This is when I experienced a mental health breakdown in the workplace. Now, sadly, at the time, there was no mental health first aiders, nobody that really understood anything about suicide prevention, which stopped me from being able to talk to my employers about what was really going on. And so I visited my GP and I was signed off work with work-related stress. And I had a month out. And then on my return back to work, I was invited into a meeting by the organisation who placed me on a performance improvement plan. Now, this was a way of monitoring my performance because obviously I couldn't tell them it was mental health related because I knew they wouldn't understand. And so little after that, it was about a month after that, I was managed out of the business. In hindsight, it was the right thing at the time to do, just quite simply because they didn't know it was mental health related. Within that month, that very same month that my employment had come to an end, I had attempted to end my life by suicide multiple times before I went back to the GP to ask for further help.
Wow, that's some journey. Do you think things are slightly different now in the workplace for people out there who are suffering from the same things?
Yeah, absolutely. We can see the tide is changing. And just this week, we've been informed that 1 in 56 people now have been trained in some form of mental health education within the United Kingdom. But sadly, still only 13% of line managers have been taught anything about mental health or suicide prevention in the first place. So what we need to be looking at is having more managers trained in recognizing the signs, but also psychological safety within the workplace for people to be able to speak openly about their mental health without fear of repercussions or stigma or even donation.
Right. But how I would like to know is how you go from sort of wanting to end your life to then becoming a speaker and doing speaking engagements.
Yeah, well, it was quite a story, and it dates all the way back to 1991. And sadly, this was when my brother was killed in a car accident by a drunk driver. And from that point going forwards, I had many events occurring in my life that I couldn't address. And it was at this point in 2014 when I experienced the breakdown that I thought, you know what, I need to go and do something to explore what other avenues are available for people like me to access support and help. So after being given a diagnosis of extreme poor mental health and mental illness, I decided to walk the entire length of Britain in recovery whilst raising awareness for mental health and homelessness.
So do you bring that into your talks? You talk about your walk, and what are your main topics during your talks?
So the main topics during my walk, and the reason why I got into speaking and telling this story, was because it was extremely difficult for males and for men in particular to be able to open up and tell their story. So what I did with my journey was I went to literally every newspaper that I could, local newspaper, BBC television, ITV News, to tell my story. So I wanted as many people to know about this, that even though I'd been given a diagnosis, was experiencing poor mental health and mental illness, recovery was highly likely and possible. And I wanted to show other people, to tell other people this story of recovery. So for me, what I tend to tell, what I talk about within my talks is homelessness, addiction, mental health, and suicide.
Okay. And what do you love most about talking and speaking?
What I love most about this is saying to other people that asking for help isn't a weakness, and that by talking about our mental health, it doesn't mean that we're any different to anybody else, and that anybody can experience mental health or poor mental health at any point. So it's leaving them with the message that recovery is highly likely and extremely possible.
And I can understand that on an individual level, but how does that work on an organizational level within big businesses?
So what we look at within organisations is policy change, because what I found when I was working within the NHS shortly after is that they have some wonderful policies, but people were not accessing the support that was needed. So we went about looking at how people could actually go and well, how we could change policy, but also how people could access the help.
So, and you think, what's the feedback like when you're doing your talks? Do you find that they continue to use the information that they glean from your talks and continue with it moving forward?
Yeah, absolutely. What I found is when I deliver the talks is more people then afterwards will approach me about looking at policy, but also how do we implement an emotional well-being and mental health policy and suicide prevention policy within the organisation. So for me, it's not about just delivering the talk. It's helping those organisations move forward, support their people, and create a psychological safety or safe workplace for all people that work within the organisation.
So helping to create a sustainable difference and a lasting difference within a company. I think that sounds fabulous. I've been working with lots of clients lately who are looking at exactly this. So it looks like we are moving in the right direction. But how do you get involved at this planning stage before the event, so you ensure that you fulfill the right need for that particular client?
Sure. Well, I'll speak with the client first of all and find out what their pain points are. And then we'll work around creating the story and creating what I'm going to say within the talk at that point. So we make sure that we're covering all the pain points and what people want to hear within the talk. So it could be anything from resilience to bouncing back. It could be around mental health, or it could even be around suicide prevention. So it's really understanding the client's needs before we come and deliver, or before I come and deliver the talk.
And are there any individual talks that you really remember, any differences that you've made that jump out at you that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the most remarkable and rememberable was for Legal in General. I was delivering a talk with Dame Kelly Holmes and Kirsty Gallagher. And I just remember talking about my story and saying that it's never a weakness to ask for help, that it's a strength. But it was so amazing to have these celebrities and, rubbing shoulders with these celebrities, but leaving this impact and this impression and knowing that it's never a weakness to ask for help.
Such an important point to finish on. It's been brilliant chatting to you, Steve. Thank you very much for your time today. And if you'd like to book Steve, then simply contact myself or Steve at Great British Speakers on 01753 439 289.